Hi guys, my name is Ashley and I'm a mom of 2 little girls. I have a 2.5-year-old toddler named Kylie and I also have an 11-month-old baby named Mia. When it comes to building independence in your Montessori home, you have to make sure that your child's environment is safe at all times, especially in places where your child is going to be left unsupervised. In some parenting circles, this is referred to as creating a yes space. And by creating these types of spaces in your home, not only are you encouraging your child's independence, but you're also encouraging their confidence because they don't have you lurking around, kind of hovering constantly, worrying about them getting hurt. So when it comes to baby-proofing your home for safe exploration, there are really 2 different ways to do it. You can either create special areas or little tinier yes spaces that your child can be left to freely explore, or you can work on baby-proofing your entire home, which is actually not as hard as it might sound. So from one busy parent to another, today I'm gonna take you guys on a short little tour of our home in the hopes of giving you guys some ideas on how you might baby-proof the different areas of your Montessori home so that your little one can safely explore and become a little bit more independent and confident. So for many parents, the one and only yes space that you have available for your child is going to be their bedroom. So I'm gonna go ahead and start in my daughter Mia's room. And she is 11 months old. It has basically looked like this since she moved in here at about 3 to 4 months old. And not much has changed about it except for the fact that this used to be a changing table, not a little wardrobe. But this has recently come in here for her now that she is gaining a little bit more independence. So the basic safety aspects that you want to look at for a young child, especially for babies under 12 months, the number one thing you should address are the electrical outlets. And you can see these ones have little clear covers that are very hard to get out actually, even for an adult. I know that there are some kids that are really good at getting them out eventually, but when they're really little, these work just fine. They also come in like opaque ones that don't show the little plug holes, but I just preferred the clear ones and that's why we have those. This is a Sprout Montessori floor bed that is intended for young children. It is not very high off the ground, just a couple of inches, and she is able to crawl in and out of the bed safely all by herself. The mirror that is along the wall is not a necessary feature, but if you do choose to use a mirror as we have done, you want to make sure that it is either baby safe glass that has like a backing on it so that it's shatterproof basically. Even if it were to break, the pieces and shards would not fall out. Or you can do one even better and you can buy an acrylic mirror. They do make acrylic mirrors. I will link a couple down below for you guys to check out, but those are some options if you do want to have a mirror next to your baby's bed. Our mirror is actually mounted to the wall directly. It is screwed into 2 studs in 4 different places, so that mirror is going nowhere. And if you do want to mount a mirror on your child's wall, you want to make sure that it is secured on there so that there is no way that the child can tear it down. And if you're not sure the why of why I have a mirror there, I will also link my Montessori baby bedroom tour video that I did in here a couple months ago, and I go into a little bit more detail as to why there's a mirror there. Any sort of decorative wall hangings should be minimal, and if you do have them, they should be suspended nice and high, so again, they're not within the child's reach. They can't pull them down and cause any kind of a strangulation hazard to themselves. You'll also notice on Mia's bed that there is nothing on it except for a fitted sheet, and then she does sleep with a sleep sack, not with a blanket or a pillow or anything, because she's not 1 yet, and it is considered a very dangerous SIDS risk to have a blanket or loose bedding or fluffy pillows of any kind in your child's bed at that young of an age. So this is just a typical spring form mattress, no padding, no gel memory foam, no pillow top, nothing, just like a standard twin size mattress, and then her sleep sack. And even though she is crawling right now, she is able to crawl around the room with no problem with it on. This fluffy rug is here just as a means of decor. You would not want to leave this in the room unattended with a baby that's sleeping because it could become a suffocation hazard. So typically what I do is when I put Mia down for naps or for nighttime, I just take the rug and I remove it all together so that it's not there. And then during the daytime, we put the rug back out and it's there just for decorative purposes and as a nice cozy play area as well. Any major furniture pieces that have the potential to fall over, you want to make sure that they are mounted to the wall. So both of these things are mounted to the wall with actual hardware and some brackets on the back side. You can also install these nifty little rubbery corner guards on the sharp corners just in case, so that your child doesn't hit their head and cause any sort of major serious injury to their heads. I know some people are really worried about these edges as well, and Honestly, in my experience, they haven't really been much of an issue for me. My first child did bump her head on these a couple of times. Mia has actually not done that yet, but when it did happen, it just caused a little bump. It was nothing really to write home about. So they do sell little edge protectors that you can buy, but then you have to worry about your child ripping them off constantly and putting them back on. And to me, that just wasn't really worth it. I feel like eventually they do learn the bounds of their bodies and they learn not to bump their heads into those things, and it's not as big of a deal as you might imagine. As far as the toys that are available on your child's shelf when they are left in here unsupervised, you want to make sure that they are all toys that are safe for your child to have when they're alone. So you can see I just have some books in there. I've got a couple of soft blocks that came in her KiwiCo kit. She also has a little shape sorter that she was just playing with. So it's just a couple of shapes and the shape sorter. And then she has her rolling drum that is made of wood and nothing comes out of it. So there's nothing that she could really choke on or strangle herself on or anything like that if she were to get out of bed and play while I'm not in here, which actually doesn't happen really all that often, if at all. At least not at the age that she's at right now. And as you can see, it's really nice because she is able to explore and reach all the items on her shelf and check out whatever it is that interests her and keeps her attention. The artwork that's installed above Mia's cabinet here, and it's the same in Kylie's room, these are just laminated photos that I stuck onto the wall with 3M command strips. So even if she does manage to yank them off, she can't really do a whole lot with them because they're laminated other than crinkle them up, and nothing's really gonna happen. So these are not a safety hazard at all. I have had these curtains, these are blackout curtains for sleeping. I've had these installed in both of my girls' rooms since they were both very little. I've never had an issue with them tugging on the curtains, but I suppose for some babies that could be a problem. So if you are worried about that, then my suggestion would be to just make sure that your curtains aren't that long, or otherwise tie them up so that they're out of your baby's reach. If you choose to have any live plants in your baby's room, make sure that they are suspended or very, very high up somewhere where the baby cannot reach. You can see that ours is actually hung from the ceiling, so it is nowhere that she can get to it. And then swinging over to her wardrobe, again, that's mounted to the wall. We do have a couple of things that require plugs, her humidifier, her noise machine, her lamp, and those have all been secured behind this part of the wardrobe, and it is all the way up against the wall so that she can't get to the cords that are back there. The shelves do open up, and she could open these if she wanted to, but again, it's not really a concern because it's mounted to the wall, so even if she were to hang on the shelves, nothing would happen. And we have one of her baby monitors sitting right here. This is the one that we don't really prefer to use, but I use it as a backup in case our Wi-Fi connection goes out at night for the one that we use on our phone, which is actually installed up there. So again, I have two that is totally not necessary. It's a little bit overkill, but it just makes me feel better because our Wi-Fi connection is a little wonky sometimes and it does drop out, and it's nice that this one is point to point and I can always count on it being up and running constantly without ever going down, even in the middle of the night. As far as the cords for the baby monitor security camera that we use, you can see that we've got them tied up here in the corner, well out of her reach and plugged in, and then my husband installed some like covering for the cords that's mounted to the wall, and then the actual outlet box is entirely covered as well so that she cannot get to these exposed things that had to be plugged in here. We didn't have a choice as to where else it was going to be. So this is what's working great for us. She honestly doesn't even mess with it. But yeah, these outlet boxes are amazing. This is her closet, which you can see doesn't really have a whole lot of anything for her in it. It's a lot of extra blankets and things we're planning to donate and extra toys that are not in rotation, things that don't fit her yet. This is not really for Mia to access right now. So generally these closet doors are shut at all times. And right now she's not big enough to open them. At the age where she begins to start experimenting with that, then you could consider installing one of those little like 3M command safety straps if you wanted to. Personally, I've never really felt it necessary, but that is an option if the closet becomes an area that you don't want your child ever getting into. And finally, at nighttime, I do generally close the baby's door all the way at night, but sometimes I will leave it like this. And since her sister's room is right next door, I have have a baby gate, just a typical sliding pressure mounted baby gate that I put in the doorway just for some extra peace of mind, so that if she does come over here and decide to open the door, she can't leave the room in the middle of the night unattended. And also my toddler can't go into her room at night unattended and potentially do something that would endanger her. It's also great to have if you're planning to use your baby's room as a yes space, to be able to have that gate there and leave the door open and they can safely play and you know that they're not gonna go anywhere else. So right next door to Mia's room is Kylie's room, and you'll have to forgive the mess right now. We are busy playing in here, so it is not the tidiest. Just some general safety features for this room. Her mirror is mounted to the wall. There's no way it's gonna come off. She's never bothered to try to get it off. This little shelf is also mounted directly to the wall, and Mia actually pulls up on it all the time, and it's totally sturdy. It stays in there. Same thing with the wardrobe. The wardrobe is mounted to the wall. There's some little hardware on that side under there, and all of these items that are up on top of her wardrobe, kind of like Mia's, all the wires are secured behind this closed portion. And in her room, there's actually an exposed plug back here. So what I did was I installed one of these boxes and ran the cords right back so that they're all concealed back here. So there's no temptation to play with the cords. Mia is so kindly demonstrating for me the sturdiness of that little shelf. This teepee tent I did not install in this room until Kylie was, I want to say, almost 2. So I would not put a teepee tent in a young baby's room like Mia's room, because there's the chance that it could fall down and then they could suffocate. So you want to make sure that your child is old enough that they're not going to consistently knock it down on top of themselves while they're in it. So only for toddlers, I would say I would do a teepee tent for. And then you can see right over here, I've got another one of those little outlet boxes, and she does have one exposed cord running up to her baby camera, and it has always been there. And to be honest, it might just be my child, but she has never messed with that cord ever, so I'm not really worried about it. Her bed slash zoo full of stuffed animals at the current moment is a floor bed just like Mia's. Hers is actually right on the floor, so we have to prop up her mattress regularly to make sure that there's no like mold growth or anything, vacuum under it, the whole 9 yards. But we did use the IKEA Cora bed for her, and we just didn't install the slats so that she could be right on the ground, because Kylie has been a roller since she was a baby. She would roll out of her bed constantly, whereas Mia doesn't really do that. They're just two different kinds of sleepers. So this has worked really well for Kylie being a much more active sleeper. Now, because Kylie is almost 3, she has had pillows and blankets in here for probably about the last year, and that's totally safe, fine for her. She sleeps with a whole bunch of stuffed animals. I'm okay with that, and that's because she is as old as she is. I actually don't even think I gave her a pillow and a blanket until she was like 1.5, maybe 2, which worked out great because, to be honest, she didn't even really use a pillow or a blanket for what it's intended to be used for when you sleep at all until she was that age. One other thing worth noting for toddlers, I know there are a lot of toddlers who are totally capable of sleeping on beds that are elevated up off the floor, just like a normal toddler bed. You could totally do that too. Kylie is just a very, very, very active sleeper, and she prefers sleeping in this setup here because it's got the sides on it and she won't roll out by accident. And I'm basically just waiting until she decides that she wants her bed to be higher, like a big girl bed, I guess, if you will. Once she asks me for that, that is probably when we will raise it. But until then, I'm just gonna leave her in here, and you really could go either route. It just depends on your child. You can see in Kylie's room, I have the artwork up on the wall, just laminated photographs with the little 3M strips, just like in Mia's room. And I have seen some parents, they put like actual framed artwork up on their child's wall. But if you do that, you wanna make sure that the glass that's in front of it is either removed or it's like an acrylic sheet, and that it's very securely mounted to the wall. Kylie's dollhouse is also mounted to the wall behind this area, I believe. There's like a little strap, so this cannot fall down on top of her if she were to get up and play with it in the morning when she first wakes up, or like afternoons like this where she's just kind of in here independently playing. Kylie does have access to her closet, like she can open and close the doors by herself, but the only thing that she can really independently access are the stuffed animals and the books, and then we have a bin of balls and her little tea set. Everything else right now is above her height and she cannot get to those things, so she needs my assistance to get up there, and that's the rule. She knows she's not supposed to get those things down without me. So as you can see, Kylie just turned on the light switch all by herself. We used to to allow her to do the pull cord when she had the wardrobe that was in Mia's room. But once we upgraded to this one, it's a lot more tall. She can't reach that high anymore, and I didn't want to risk her climbing up to try to do it herself. So Mike installed one of those neat little bulbs that actually changes color and stuff, and it's connected to this little switch right here. So she knows how to turn her light on and off, and it's at her height where she can do that all by herself. So in the bathroom, not a whole lot of safety going on other than just making sure that the girls have a safe stool to use to access the sink when they do need to wash their hands or brush their teeth or do anything up there. So this stool is very sturdy. I love it. We got it from IKEA. I would highly recommend it if you're finding some of the shorter one-level stools not quite high enough. On the other side of the bathroom, we have another smaller step stool also from IKEA to enable her to get up to the potty and a little potty seat so she doesn't fall in. The one major safety thing I would say is in the bathroom is the cabinets. If you keep anything in here that's dangerous at all, you want to make sure you install cabinet locks. Mine are not, because we literally just have baby shampoo and diapers and wipes in here, and there's nothing on that side. But again, safety locks, very important if you have any kind of like chemicals or cleaning supplies under here, or medicine too. So in our living room, other than covering electrical outlets like we did upstairs with the little plastic plate covers, we've primarily just chosen to cover the corners of the coffee table because, as you can see, they're actually pretty sharp, and I would not want either of the girls bonking their heads on something that sharp. But again, as in the bedroom, the edges, you could put the little edge protectors around the edge as well, but then you have to worry about your child pulling them off. And to be honest, these are pretty sturdy. They don't really come off very well, and I am pretty good about reinforcing the fact that the girls aren't supposed to play with them anyway, so these haven't gone anywhere. But I would worry that the edge protectors would be a lot easier to fall off because they're using the table to pull up on and to hold on to constantly. So that's something that we decided to forego, but you could certainly install edge protectors on your coffee table if you feel like it is necessary. When it comes to the fireplace, it really depends on how often you use it. If it's on all the time, I would definitely get a little gate or something that goes in front of it just to blockade the area off so your baby cannot possibly go touch the glass or whatever covering is in front of it and accidentally burn their hands. But if you don't use it very often, which we do not, we maybe turn it on twice or maybe 3 times a year, then we just leave ours open like that because most of the time it's totally fine for her to go up and touch. When it comes to kitchen storage safety, especially when it comes to cabinets where there might be chemicals stored underneath or appliances or glass, things that are just dangerous for kids, you want to make sure that your cabinets are locked. They are not able to be opened by your child, especially if they happen to wander in here unsupervised. And there are all different kinds of locks that you can purchase. We actually have these little really cool magnetic locks that have a little magnetic lock right here, and this is the key that opens it. But otherwise, the kids can't get them open, and it's really convenient for that to be there. Some people are okay with not having cabinet locks, but again, it depends on your child and how exploratory they are. I know that both of my girls love to try to open all of the cabinets. So the only cabinet that I do not have locked, and I left it that way on purpose, is this one, and it simply contains just plastic Tupperware and mixing bowls and things that are safe for them to play with. So this is their cabinet, and they know that, and I'm okay with them going through that cabinet, but all the rest of them that have dangerous things in them are always locked. There are also all kinds of interesting like stovetop locks, as well as locks that go on the handles of refrigerators to keep them closed. Honestly, in my opinion, those are not really necessary unless your child is actively touching the stove constantly or touching the oven or trying to get in the refrigerator. If you find that your child is getting into those things, then maybe consider investing in it. But to me, those are just little extras that you might not actually really need. So I would wait and kind of observe your child to see how much they're exploring in your kitchen before you go out and go crazy with all those little extra types of locks and devices. Cabinet locks are kind of the basic line of defense that most parents find pretty helpful. And when it comes to your child getting up to counter height to be able to help you in the kitchen and actually practice some of those practical life skills, having a learning tower, or otherwise called a kitchen helper, is incredibly helpful. Your toddler can climb right up into it, they can get up to the counter, help you with all kinds of stuff, but they have this little protective barrier around them so that if they have a misstep, they're not gonna fall off the edge of the stool and onto the floor because they're too busy otherwise worrying about what's going on the countertop. Older children who have a little bit more bodily awareness, you could probably just use a regular stool, but for younger toddlers and even all the way up through the preschool years, I would say a learning tower is the way to go. The one that we use here in our kitchen is called the Contemporary Kitchen Helper from Guidecraft. I will link it down below along with all of the other products that I've mentioned so that you guys can find them a lot more easily, but we love this thing and we do have space to leave it out 24/7, but as you can see there are hinges so it is able to be folded up and stored away if you perhaps had a little bit less space to work with. So at both the top and the bottom of the stairs, as you can see, it is a good idea to have a gate because babies who are crawling like to try to crawl up the stairs by themselves, and you definitely don't want them doing that if they are unsupervised at all, even for just a few seconds. Obviously, if you are able to supervise your child 24/7, then you don't really have need of a gate, but in my experience, life as a parent involves you needing to get away for even 2 seconds sometimes, and it's nice to have that peace of mind. And gates at the top of the stairs are also a great idea, probably even more important than the one at the bottom, because it is much more likely that they'll be able to roll down from the top if left unsupervised. Gates at the top of the stairs should be secured into the wall with screws on both sides. This way there's no way that they can accidentally come off. They do sell ones that are pressure mounted that you can use that don't like cause permanent damage to your wall, but those are more safe for the bottom of the stairs as opposed to the top of the stairs. And when it comes to other miscellaneous areas of your house, like for example, this is our laundry room right here. Generally we keep our detergent high up out of the way where the kids can't get to it. But a better solution is simply to just make sure that you shut the door. They just can't get in there at all, and then you don't have to worry about it. Same goes for other random places, like this is our guest bathroom downstairs, and while generally there's nothing in any of our drawers that would be dangerous, it's just extra toilet paper, Kylie does have her small potty down here, and usually there's a roll of toilet paper sitting right here, and I don't really want Mia getting into that, so just to avoid having to constantly say no, we just close the door. And problem solved. One of the most frequently asked questions that I get is how to keep your baby from touching things they're not supposed to be touching. And generally this refers to things that are super dangerous, like electrical outlets and things that you most certainly do not want your baby getting into. There is a way to say no without actually saying no all the time. And that is to use your body language instead of your words constantly. Instead of yelling no, 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 or don't do that from across the room, and generally your baby is not really going to understand why it is that you're telling them no. They might just stop for a second and look at you and then go right back to doing it again. Your best line of defense is to get up from wherever you are, go to your child and physically remove them from the situation while using firm but gentle and still direct, honest language about what's happening. For example, if they were touching an electrical outlet, you would gently scoop up your child and say, oh, I can't let you touch that, that's really dangerous, and then redirect their attention to something else. When it comes to pet safety, the strategy that I like to take and I think is most effective is first to teach your child how to be gentle. So if you happen to see your child poking the dog in the eyes or pulling their ears or their tail, the first thing that I would do is go right over and say, oh, that hurts the doggy. And then I would show her, we pet the doggy like this, gentle. And I would actually take her hand and show her how to be gentle with the dog. If you are already doing this and you're finding that your child is still being very persistent about injuring the dog or the cat or whatever your pet is and not treating them very nicely, then you still want to do the same thing, but I would employ the same tactic as you would with an electrical outlet. For example, I would go right over, I would scoop up my baby and say, oh, that hurts the doggy, I can't let you pull on her tail. We need to learn to be gentle. And then I would redirect her attention somewhere else. You don't constantly want to be raising your voice and yelling no across the room or saying get down from there or don't touch that or don't do that. It's very negative language and it is very disempowering. Your child is eventually going to stop listening to you if they're constantly hearing that. So actions do speak louder than words. Going in, physically intervening when necessary is always your best line of defense. And then when you actually do have moments, and hopefully not too many, but if you do have moments where you do have to suddenly shout, no, don't touch that, or whatever the case may be, it bears so much more weight for your child to suddenly hear you raise your voice and speak so urgently to them because they're not accustomed to it. And that's when they know, hey, there really is something that I need to pay attention to. And it that might give you just that extra second that you need to then move in and safely get them out of danger. So it's not that they're doing anything bad. They're just babies and toddlers. They're exploring. That's what they like to do. They don't see it as trying to annoy you or trying to do something that's dangerous on purpose. What you instead should always be focusing on is that it's your job to keep them safe, and that's what you want to communicate to them. Be patient, keep your cool, repeat it as many times as necessary to keep them safe, and I promise you, one day they will learn. So those are just some of the ways that we have baby-proofed our home for our girls. Again, I kind of feel like everything is in moderation. There's no need to go crazy overboard with some of the products that are out there, and what we have done has worked very successfully for our toddler, and it is also working for our baby. If you have any ideas or tips for baby proofing that work in your home, please be sure to share them with us in the comments down below. And just in case you are new to my channel, I did want to let you know that this video is part of a much larger series called Montessori at Home, which is aimed at providing practical tips and advice for busy parents like you and I for implementing Montessori philosophies at home with your children. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in learning more about, then you might consider subscribing to my channel. This way you don't miss a new video, because I upload a new one just like this one every single week. Thanks so much for watching today, and we'll see you next time. Bye!